I'm Mandy Yarkich from Creative Matters, and you're listening to Creative Matters on Air, where I have conversations with new and established artists from around New Zealand. I love to listen to artists' stories and learn about their creative process, and maybe you do too, which is why I've made this podcast, to inspire, inform and educate. I hope you can take away something positive and encouraging from each of these amazing stories to help you on your own creative journey. Welcome to Creative Matters episode 13. Thank you so much for joining me. Today I'm talking to Kiri Abraham. Kiri is an artist, mother, gardener, tramper and lover of nature who has lived and worked in Helensville, northwest of Auckland, for the past 15 years. She describes her art as drawing, although it includes painting, printing, stitch, and more recently, cutting and burning. Kiri's work has themes of land and ecology at its core, human connection to place through story and materials, and the reciprocity of care and protection between humans and the earth. Welcome to Creative Matters, Kiri. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. It's lovely to be here.
It's nice to have you here, and I'm really excited to hear your story. I know that quite a few people actually have asked me to speak with you. So, and knowing your work, I think it's going to be really interesting to hear the backstory.
Well, I hope I don't disappoint.
I'm sure you won't. All right, so as usual, let's start from the beginning. Kiri, can you tell us about where you were born, your childhood, and if you were a creative kid?
I was born in Te Kuiti, and soon after that we moved. We moved quite a lot when I was a young child. We lived in Singapore, in Thames, back in New Zealand, in various places around Auckland and in England, and came back to Auckland when I was starting high school, and kind of settled there in Blockhouse Bay in West Auckland.
Interesting. And what made you travel so much as a family?
My dad was a primary school teacher, and his job really took us to these places. I think my parents both had itchy feet as well, and maybe wanted to do some exploring. They'd been quite settled in their early lives, and I think, they kind of got the travel bug later on, and then as a family we did some exploring.
That's great. And what kind of things did you get up to creatively as a child?
I feel like childhood back then was creative. Probably the absence of screens really helped that. My mum was very creative. She did a lot of knitting and spinning and weaving, dyeing wool. There was always some kind of noxious smell coming from the kitchen of something that she was cooking up to dye wool with later. So I feel like it was always very much a part of our life. And even though we were quite a working class family, I guess, but my mum brought in creativity into the domestic space and into everything that she did. So it was all around us, and there were always paints and pens and paper and materials to play with. Yeah.
That's cool. And what kind of thing do you remember making as a child?
I remember doing lots of collage and gluing macaroni onto things. I remember drawing a lot. Playing with what was around. And I guess we spent quite a lot of time outside as well. So using leaves to do leaf rubbings and bark and anything that was at hand that was growing or in the garden. Yeah.
And could you see glimmers of what you're doing now with your drawing, that sort of more intricate work? Could you see that as a child? Was that happening then or not so much?
I think I was more of a kind of slap bang, kind of big movement, big marks. I was much more energetic.
That's interesting, isn't it?
Yeah. I think I've calmed down a lot since then.
Very interesting. Well, we'll get on to your practice a bit later. So going through school, up into high school and that kind of thing, how did you find art then?
So I think high school was probably where, I guess because it becomes a subject that you can take, it became something that was quite separated and it was its own thing. It wasn't just something that wove through life. And I loved it from the start, I think. I went to Lynfield College and there was a really strong art department and I had some really inspirational teachers there who supported me a lot with my art and really encouraged me to take it seriously, to kind of see it as a possible profession, I guess, in the future, to take it seriously. Yeah.
That's great, isn't it?
Yeah.
To have that kind of encouragement.
Yeah. And I think it was a real trust that they had, and they really treated us as artists as though we were artists already, not just students learning art. So I think that kind of confidence, it really transfers over to you when you're feeling like people are seeing you in that way. And also being able to experiment and learn techniques that I hadn't been exposed to before. I think that was a really lovely time. It was also a really strong little community in the art department. We had this old shed that was the art shed that we all hung out in, and it was the beginning of that kind of bouncing off other artists and seeing the value in that and the community that could come out of creativity.
Isn't that great? I mean, not everyone has that at art in high school for art, do they?
Yeah, and I wonder how art is in high school these days. But I think back then it was kind of this little offshoot that happened quite quietly, and because of that, there was quite a lot of freedom to explore.
And were you doing the drawing anything like you're doing now, or was it quite different?
No, it was still, I think, similar to how I had approached art as a young child. It was very gestural and loose, so very different to what I do now.
That is so fascinating.
Yeah.
And what were the sort of general themes that you were exploring?
I remember doing a whole section on Māori and Pacific art, and I remember looking at spaces between objects, and windows was part of that. So looking at windows, looking at stained glass windows, so kind of structure and space between structures. Yeah.
Well, to me, that I can see the connection when you're considering space in that way. I feel like with your work that you're doing at the moment, which we'll talk about soon, has quite a lot of consideration for space also. Would you say that?
Yeah, I think I am still quite intrigued by structures and what you can do within those. Rather than broad things like a still life or a landscape that's treated in a way that's representational. I think I am quite interested in objects and what lies between them. Yeah. So I went to Auckland Uni and I did art history, which possibly wouldn't have led to a real job either. But I really loved that. I love research and writing and reading, and I focused a lot on contemporary art, specifically New Zealand art. So that was a really positive time. I wasn't making anything, and looking back, I kind of think, oh, that was a bit sad that I didn't still own that I could still do art outside of the institution. But I guess that was just where I was at that point. Yeah.
And you obviously found it later, so
yeah,
that's good.
Yeah, it hunts you down.
Yeah, it's always going to be there, isn't it?
Yeah.
And then what did you do with your art history degree?
So I went travelling, and I went to Scotland initially, and ended up living there for 10 years.
Oh, wow.
And met my husband there.
And why Scotland?
Well, in my early life, we had spent a year in England. We'd lived in Yorkshire, and we'd had one holiday. We had this old camper van that we took around the place, and we'd had this holiday in Scotland and had gone to the remotest parts, to the Outer Hebrides, to the Highlands, and there was something about that landscape that just connected with me, and I'd held on to that for a long time. My grandmother was Scottish as well, so there was kind of that familial connection. And when I was planning to go overseas, it was just, for me, the first place that I wanted to go and wanted to go back to. Yeah.
And you stayed there for that long?
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah, there was, a bit of travel around and living in various different places. But yeah, that was where I settled, where we settled after we were married.
How great.
Yeah.
I lived in Scotland when I was 8 and 9.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and loved it too, and have that same kind of connection with it. And I have been back, but not to live. But yeah, it's got under my skin as well for some reason.
I wonder if it's that Pakeha connection that we have with that part of the world.
Possibly. Wow. And then what were you doing work-wise?
So that was when I decided to go to art school, actually. I'd been working, in cafes and libraries and just those usual kind of travelling jobs. But I think as I was travelling, I guess you're automatically in this position of being an observer and slightly anonymous, slightly removed from what you're seeing. And that was when I started drawing again and just really loved it and realised that there was this part of me that I had neglected and it wasn't going to go away. And that was when I decided that, I really wanted to do this. I wanted to take it seriously and go and do some study.
How great that you came back to that point.
Yeah.
And you felt, obviously, from the sort of being rejected, you'd kind of got over that in your mind and decided to go again.
Yeah. And I think maybe being outside of New Zealand was quite freeing and feeling like this is a new beginning. No one knows me here. No one knows my art from before. And it felt very liberating. Yeah.
I can imagine. Wow. So you got in, obviously.
Yeah. So we were living in Aberdeen in the northeast of Scotland. So I went to Gray's School of Art, which is part of Robert Gordon University, and was there for 4 years. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And it was great. It was, I feel like it was such a privilege to have that amount of time just to create and to really explore who I was creatively. I had some incredible tutors who were very trusting and supportive and just gave me a lot of space to just follow what I was doing. I was in the textile department, but within that I moved into sculpture and printmaking and painting, and there was a lot of encouragement to really stretch out and to just use people and studios and technicians and really explore.
Sounds amazing.
Yeah, it was incredible. Yeah.
And then from there, I mean, were you doing a lot of drawing as well at that time, as well as the painting? And
well, as part of that degree, 1 day a week was spent purely drawing in the drawing studios, and I think most people didn't really enjoy that part of it. They just wanted to be back in the studio, screen printing or knitting, or but I loved it, and I think that's when I was kind of exposed to drawing as being something incredibly diverse and exploratory, with no boundaries. And yeah, we did some crazy things in that drawing studio, but it really opened my eyes to the possibilities of drawing as an art form in itself, and not necessarily as something which preempts something more finished or final.
Yeah. Cool. And so you did your 4 years. What happened after that? Was that time for babies? Or?
Yes. Yeah. So pretty much straight after that, we moved back to New Zealand after 10 years and had babies. So, you just go into a different world really at that point, which I loved, and it was exhausting and creative. And I managed to carry on drawing in that time. And I think that's actually when I started down the track of the type of drawing that I do now, because I was limited with time and space. We had a very small house. I would, at night time, once the kids were in bed, I'd get my head torch on and spread out on the kitchen table, and I'd have one drawing that I worked on that I could just pick away at. And I remember listening to someone speaking about their love for knitting at that point, and who had children and a busy life, and she said that if she can get 2 rows knitted at the breakfast table, then count that as a win. And I think it was that really stuck with me, and it was that thing of taking those small windows of time rather than looking for the hours and hours which never arrive, and just carrying on that creative practice in a very small way, and gradually that builds up and you've completed a drawing, and then there's another drawing and another one.
That's a nice way of looking at it.
Yeah.
And did you feel did you have a real compulsion to be drawing and making through it, or were you thinking I should continue to draw for my practice, or how did you feel?
I think once I had finished art school, I knew that I wanted to really push through with the drawing. I really wanted to carry that on. I'd kind of had enough of textiles by that point, and I knew drawing was something that I could carry on, that I could integrate into a messy life. And there was that drive in me to carry on. Yeah, I think by that point I'd accepted that this was who I was, this was part of me, and that it wasn't that helpful to shove it aside and to ignore it anymore.
Which you'd done earlier,
yeah.
So you learned from that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. I think that's lovely advice for, people who are busy or new mums who have that need to be creative.
Yeah.
to look at it in sort of small chunks.
Yes. Yeah. And I wonder if, part of that came from my experience with my mum, who just brought that creativity into the domestic space in any way. Yeah.
Yeah, probably. So just for the listeners who don't actually know your work, we've been talking about drawing, but I say it's not the kind of drawing that people might have in their minds when they think of drawing. So could you just describe sort of overall the kind of work you do, and then we'll sort of unpack the different parts of your practice?
Yeah, so I guess my drawing is made up with lots of tiny marks that I build up to make a larger image or picture or drawing. Yeah. So I use various methods to make those marks. I love just using pen and ink or graphite. I've been using cutting tools, so cutting straight into the surface of the paper. Burning with a wood burning tool, and I've also been using natural clays and biochar. Yeah,
beautiful. And your work, is very intricate and delicate and beautiful, I think.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, it's really beautiful, and it's there's something about it that draws you in, because it does have that real fragility about it in a way to look at for me, and the way that you interpret mark making, and I think is so beautiful. So when you do your drawings, it is connected to place and land, isn't it? So how can you describe that for us?
Talk about that, yeah. Yeah, I'm really interested in humans' connection to land and their relationship to place, to the stories that they have around land. I'm interested in geology and in the physical earth, but also in, I guess, people's imaginative relationships with place. Yeah, and I think, living in New Zealand, there's an uncomfortable connection to land often, especially being Pakeha. I do have Māori heritage as well, but I guess that the Pakeha side is what I've connected most with in my life. And having had a childhood of moving around a lot, of transience, and of not connecting to place, it's something that really fascinates me. And especially how people work with the land and have practices which have been formed and repeated through generations, through things like gardening and built structures. It's an ongoing fascination, and it's an uncomfortable fascination.
That's very interesting. What is uncomfortable for you?
I find it hard to make art about specific locations in New Zealand. I think I don't necessarily feel like I have a right to make work about the land here. I'm very conscious of our history and of who this land belongs to, and I do feel like a visitor here. And so I feel this awkwardness around it. I've just been reading Alison Jones's memoir. I don't know if you...
No, I don't.
Yeah, she's written about her journey of being a Pakeha and the uncomfortableness of forming that identity I think that really resonates with me and with the art that I make, that I love this place. I love New Zealand. I have, amazing memories and connections through memory of the land, but there's also a disconnect at some point that I feel.
And do you think your art is helping you to connect?
I think it's a journey of it. It's holds more questions perhaps than answers for me. I'm drawn to explore it, but I don't think there's answers in it. Yeah.
I need to get deeper with this. This is fascinating. So your work is, obviously you're not drawing sort of what you see specifically, are you? So can you describe sort of how you're responding to the land and to place and to people with your mark making?
Yeah, I do a lot of reading. That's really something that's quite crucial to my practice, and I research a lot. So the kind of things that I'm reading around are things like Indigenous gardening practices, and human stories that connect them to place. And so then I'm thinking about materials and how those materials themselves can reflect the subject matter that I'm exploring. And then I'm also considering ideas within that around ecology and earth protection. So reading around those ideas as well. Yeah.
Which comes back to your art history interests and research and reading.
Yeah, for sure.
So that probably really was a great thing to do for your practice now in hindsight.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think to read deeply into a subject has been really helpful for me.
That's really interesting that it's so connected with the research and the reading. And so I'm just kind of going there again. Do you have a particular place? So if you imagine one of your artworks, like one of the ones that was at Muriwai Arts recently, last week, the show that we had there, are you actually responding to a particular place, or is it just sort of a more of a general view of earth and place?
I've approached both of those things. With the ones that were at Muriwai, it was more general, and I was reading at that time a lot about soil and what makes up soil and the degradation of soil that we've seen. And so for those works, it was kind of more of a joyous exploration of, wow, there's so much life in soil, and a love for that and for the richness that brings to our land. At other times, I have looked at specific place and specific landforms and integrated those into drawings. So a bit of both, really, without, I guess, specifically or obviously locating to a specific place. Yeah.
And following on from the work that you showed at Muriwai Arts, I know that your latest work is using other things like burn marks and holes and that kind of thing. Can you talk about that? Yeah.
So I think after I had done those, I guess I could call them soil drawings, I became quite fascinated with burning and also the connection with biochar and burning, which is a practice that has been used for thousands of years in order to enrich soil, particularly by the Incas. And so burning became a method that I used to create drawings. I also really responded to the idea of creating a whole in order to make a line or to make a drawing. So instead of adding to paper, it's taking away from paper. So it's an absence rather than a presence, which kind of ties into my thinking of walking lightly. The recent works I've been doing have been quite laborious and slow as always. And they've been variations of cloaks, I would say, which are created from rows and rows of tiny burn holes onto tissue paper.
Oh, wow. Very delicate.
Yeah. And hopefully compostable at the end.
I don't think we're going to want to compost them somehow. Oh, that sounds really fascinating. Yeah, and you're combining the burn marks with the drawing marks and the holes?
So this time I'm only using the burn holes. So, yeah, I've just kind of, I guess, simplified. And I'm sure I will integrate those other marks at different times, but right now I'm just loving the burn holes. Just loving it.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
And what's the actual tool you use?
It's actually my daughter's wood burning tool. So I might have to get her another one because I think
Wow.
used this one to its full potential.
And is it showing the browning of the mark from the burn and from the heat, or is it purely holes in tissue?
There's the brown burn mark as well, and it's quite unpredictable. So instead of there being a really regular mark that it makes, it's obviously dependent on how long you hold that tool into the paper. And the angle at which you hold it. And so there's this beautiful variation which I don't have a whole lot of control over, which I'm really enjoying. Yeah.
It sounds quite experimental almost. And do you have a sort of final product in your mind? I mean, I'm guessing you probably don't.
No, I actually do. Because the drawings that I make are so slow, they'll probably take 3 or 4 months to complete one drawing. So I can't really afford to make a mistake halfway. So I work quite a lot in my sketchbook and really refining how I want this drawing to be. And that's quite a long process. And then, so when I actually come to sit down and begin this drawing, I know exactly how it's going to look.
Wow. And so what do you use in your sketchbook? Is it just ink and pencil?
Yeah, and I actually mostly use my sketchbook for writing. So I'm writing my ideas, connecting with things I've seen, and then doing little rough sketches of I guess it's more of a design way of working of how I want the structure of this drawing to be.
And how much does that change through the process as you're working?
It definitely ends up different to my very controlled beginning. And as I'm creating this drawing, I'm always thinking about the next drawing and discovering things that are happening with the tool and the paper, and thinking, how could I use that in the next drawing, or how could I integrate that or increase that or decrease that? So it's a constant thought process going on as I'm working. Yeah.
And do you take notes in your sketchbook as you work?
Yeah, I do. I also, while I'm working, because it's very mechanical, I listen to podcasts and audiobooks a lot. So I'm often getting ideas or references from what I'm listening. It's usually connected to the subject matter of my drawings. And so I'm jotting those down as I go.
That's amazing. And so this latest work, is it responding to a similar kind of thing to the work previously?
Yeah, I think it's possibly got a more ecological bent to it. I've been looking at cloaks and specifically Māori cloaks, and there's a story I read recently of a few different instances where this has happened in Māori tradition, where someone has been in a situation where they've been about to be killed and someone else has thrown a cloak over them, and that has become symbolic of them being protected and spared. And I've been thinking a lot about the fragile ecologies around us and how we just really need to throw a cloak over them and protect them. And so I guess I'm creating some cloaks for the land.
To protect. Beautiful. And how are you going to show those works? Are they just on large tissue that you'll frame, or would you make it more like a textile? I mean, maybe that's coming back to your textiles.
Yeah, it's actually been in my mind a bit, because the works I'm doing at the moment are at the framers, so they'll be behind glass. But I have been thinking about, I wonder if making an actual garment out of burnt tissue, how that would, and even, I don't know, getting a dancer to work with it, or so
that would be beautiful. I can really imagine that. Or even having, just beautiful tissue draping from sort of a rod or something like that, with that, all those marks on it, would be quite stunning.
Yeah. There's lots of different ways it could go.
Yeah, that's exciting. And do you feel like it connects with your practice when you were looking at textiles when you were younger?
Yeah, I think, I guess throughout your life you have these little periods of fascination and influences, and they all connect up in some way or other. And so I think that is kind of harking back to that time. And also I've started looking again at some of the artists that I looked at back then and going and just, re-looking at them and connecting them in now to this work.
That's so great, isn't it?
In a different way.
I love that about creativity, that you're always thinking and growing and developing and noticing, and, it just, the more you do it, almost the more ideas come.
Connecting up dots.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Totally. Wow. Can't wait to see those.
Have to get busy.
Gorgeous. Yeah, so obviously you have quite an interesting process, and your work, as you were saying, is very connected to what you read and what you research, as well as what you see and feel. Can you tell us about? I mean, you've kind of touched on it already with the sketchbooks, but maybe going back to the fine line drawing with ink or with pencil. Can you tell us about your process?
Yeah, I guess it was similar in a way. It would always begin with reading and being inspired in that way, and then work in my sketchbook. And I think because I've always been fascinated with marks and marks that exist in the natural world, I've always looked around me. I'm a really keen walker, and so I'm always walking through nature in some way and scouring around me for marks in nature that I can then play with and repeat. I'm quite interested in repetition and how repeating a mark can create an entirely different or new image. So I'm a bit of a collector, I suppose, of marks.
Do you take photographs at all on your walks?
No, I leave technology behind. I'm terrible with it. So it's much more of a pen and paper kind of scenario.
Sounds like a good approach. Wow. And anything else about your process? I mean, are you still working from home on the kitchen table?
I have now got my own space, which is lovely at home, just a table set up. That's mine, which is great. I did have a studio for a number of years with Emma Springford Goff, who you've also interviewed, and that was great. It was very cold, as I think she also mentioned.
Yeah.
And I enjoyed sharing a space with other artists, and even though we weren't often there at the same time, being surrounded by other art was really inspiring. And you know, Emma's art is so joyful and fun, and it was like a breath of fresh air for me. Yeah.
And you can work with other artists or sort of with noise around you, because it seems such a precise practice that you have. I just wonder if you can focus when there's noise around you.
Yeah, no, I can't. It was quite a quiet studio though, apart from the odd train that roared through. But no, I do need quiet. And so probably working for home, I'm more productive in that way. So there's pros and cons, really. I like both situations.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, there's a lot of thinking involved in your practice.
Yeah.
So you kind of do need quiet.
Definitely.
Yeah.
I'm not an artist that can work and chat at the same time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. That's very cool. And anything else you want to say about your process?
I guess with the work that I'm doing at the moment, it's because it's very mechanical. There's a limit to how much I can actually do in one sitting. So working from home is great because I can do an hour's work and then go and put a load of washing on, or attend to the domestic stuff, and it just gives my body a rest because I do get RSI from it, and have to be a bit careful about that. So working for intense periods of time, if I'm building up to a show or to a deadline, it can be quite difficult physically. So working more slowly and integrating it into life is quite helpful.
Yeah, it's helpful physically and mentally.
Yeah,
probably.
Yeah, for sure. It can get a bit intense sometimes.
Yeah, it's good to mix it up, isn't it? Yeah. And I mean, obviously, you're inspired by ecology and what's around you and your place. Do you have other inspirations? Any particular artists?
Okay. Yeah, there's an artist that I've looked at for years. She's actually a graffiti artist. Well, she's done various things. Miso is her kind of tag name, and she's done a lot of things with cutting as well, and works with line a lot. But I particularly like her approach, especially in her early days, where she was cutting out big images and then secretly sneaking out and pasting them up around Melbourne, I think, in the middle of the night to be seen by everyone, and then gradually the weather would degrade them or they'd be pulled down. And there's something I really love about that kind of work that is shared almost secretly and is out of the gallery and into the public space.
Allowing people to engage in different ways.
And just bringing a bit of secret joy to life. I love it when I come across something like that, or some special graffiti or something that's been done. Not by the rules, but it's good to have surprise in life, I think.
Are you planning any secret surprises around your area? Maybe you're already doing it and we don't know about it.
I've had a few ideas, but I think I'm also quite boring and sensible and
not boring.
well, I appreciate other people's attempts at that way of working. Yeah, for sure.
It's quite liberating in a way, isn't it?
Yeah, and I think just remembering that creativity doesn't just belong in the art gallery, that it can enrich us in our day-to-day lives as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And let me think. What do you love about what you do?
It has a really meditative quality that I really enjoy. I wrestle with the beginning part of my process, which is the ideas generation and forming the drawing. There's a lot of wrestling that goes on in me at that stage, but once I have got my plan worked out and I'm in the rhythm of it, there's a kind of dropping down in the midst of that process, which I just really love, and I crave it when I don't have it. And it's something to do with the rhythm of making those marks and of the quietness that I need in order to make them. I think because I walk so much, that's also another rhythmical, quiet activity, and there's something in me that's just drawn to that. I find finishing drawings quite difficult because I can see the end of this beautiful bubble, and so my marks often get smaller and smaller and smaller because I just don't want to get to that finishing line.
I love that. How beautiful. I'd say some artists feel the opposite. They just want to get to the end.
Busting to finish, yeah.
That's really
cool. Yeah.
It's really good for your well-being, obviously.
Yeah, especially, when you have noisy kids and lots of activity in the rest of your life.
Busy life.
Yeah.
Well, I think definitely when I look at your work, it puts me into that kind of place also. There's a real calm about your work, which is very appealing. So you're it's nice that you feel that yourself as you're making it, but you're also helping the viewer to go there, which is pretty special.
Oh, that's really nice to hear. Yeah.
Wow. Beautiful story, Kiri. Thank you. I'd just love to know what advice you'd have for somebody starting out on their creative journey.
Have really well sharpened pencils. I think having a blunt pencil is so unappealing and you'll never pick it up. So sharpen your pencils. And I guess just making the most of those small moments. Don't look for the big windows of time, which don't often come, and sometimes when they do come, they're so overwhelming that you don't really know what to do first. So picking away at a creative project is a really great way to start.
Yeah, I agree. And I'd love to know what's in the future for you, Kiri.
So would I.
If you had a crystal ball.
I guess I just keep making work. I just plod along with it. I've found that having a few deadlines dotted through the year is really good for me, and great for me to just to do things like get things framed and get them up on the wall where I can look at them, and putting them out into that public space after such a long time of it being quite an intense personal process. It's every artist I think probably finds that hard as well, but it's a good hard, and I appreciate it. So I just kind of carry on with a few regular things that I get involved with, and I just keep making.
And then hopefully some other interesting things with textile developments or, somehow, using your tissue in different ways. Will be interesting to see where you take that.
Yeah. I'd be quite interested to work with other creatives in that way, actually. Just get out of the isolated kind of working on your own thing. Yeah, would be quite cool.
The collaboration would be great.
Yeah.
Oh, well, Kiri, thank you so much for coming to Muriwai and talking to me today. It has been so interesting, and, for me, not knowing you really well, it's lovely to hear your story. And I think that you have given people something really important to take away, that especially that sort of allowing yourself time, but looking at the small windows as well is a really great piece of advice, because sometimes it's so consuming and overwhelming to find time. So just allowing that sort of the small window concept, I think, is great advice. And I look forward to seeing where your work ends up. And it's lovely to have you here. Thank you.
Oh, thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure.
Thanks, Kiri.